Feeling nostalgic, 2000s kids?
So, over the course of the PSP's lifespan, we've seen a whole ton of different revisions for the console. The PSP 1000, the PSP 2000, the PSP 3000, the PSP 4000, the PSP Go, which probably wasn't the best console to release at that time considering it was digital only, but I digress. And then finally, in 2011, we got the PSP Street. So, funnily enough, the PSP Street right here is actually kind of the opposite of the PSP Go. You see, this did have a UMD slot on the back, like any other normal PSP, but you can't connect it to Wi-Fi. See, back in 2011, the PS Vita was right around the corner, it even came out in Japan that same year, and in other countries in 2012. So Sony just thought, screw it, we're going to release a budget PSP just to get a quick buck out of the dying console. And yeah, they did just that. And they stripped out the internet from it, so you weren't getting any of those beautiful Little Big Planet levels. Now, even from the second you turn this thing on, you'll see something's not quite right here. See, with a normal PSP, you'd see like the PlayStation Network sort of tab right here and maybe the internet browser. I can't remember how it is, but there'd be another like tab here for PlayStation Network or the internet. On this thing, for obvious reasons, it's not there. It's basically just like any other PSP. You've got most of the options here, save for anything internet based. You know, it's on the latest firmware. My one's hacked. We'll get into that later, but everything here, aside from anything internet based, is the same.
So, I have just launched the custom firmware, Light Minimum Edition 1.8, and I'll be showing you kind of what you can do with custom firmware on a PSP like this. So you can play your legally backed up game dumps on your modded PSP, and I'm just showing you Darius Garden, I think it's called. Just another shoot 'em up on the PSP right here. And as you can see, it does work perfectly. It's like if you're playing it right off the disc. So alongside ISO files on your PSP, you can also play some PS1 e-boots. So I have Rival Schools running right here, and pretty much all PS1 games are going to work very well on the PSP because it's still running through an official emulator and not something custom made by some guy on the internet. So you will need to use a conversion program. Obviously, I can't show that in this video, but that's pretty much what you need to do to get PS1 e-boots on your PSP. Now, easily one of my favorite things about pretty much any games console like the PSP are the emulators. So as you can see, King of Fighters 2002 is running on here at very good speeds. Now, I think you can adjust some settings to get, better speeds on here. Because it is a tiny bit slow, but yeah, I could show this in another video, but this is just showing off basically what the PSP can do. Now, another swag emulator I wanted to try out was N64. Now, sadly, it doesn't run the best, but you can obviously mess around with some of the settings and see where you can kind of go with it. But would I recommend this on the PSP? Not really, unless you manage to figure out some of the settings and you can get a game working like Smash Bros. But for Mortal Kombat Trilogy, whilst it does work, kind of, it is pretty laggy and I wouldn't necessarily recommend it on here. So we have Minecraft on the PS Vita, but what about Minecraft on the PSP? This music is actually so darn peak. It's Minecraft. So, considering this is on the PSP, this is actually really impressive. Now, my biggest complaint is the controls are absolutely all over the place. So, you move the analog stick to move the camera, right? But you press the face buttons to actually move around. This is so weird to get used to. And you press the down button on the D-pad to move. And the left and right D-pad to select between your blocks. So it works, but it takes a lot of getting used to. Not to say that this is exactly bad. I mean, for a homebrew, this is actually really impressive, and maybe Minecraft could have been on the PSP to some degree. I mean, probably not, but if something like this can work through the fans and the hacking community, then there's a whole Pandora's box of just amazing things. That probably wasn't the best, you know, analogy, but whatever. Like, this is still really cool on the PSP. Ever wanted to play Fruit Ninja on a device that has no touch screen? Well, you can now. I mean, they definitely tried. I'll give them that. I'll give them that. You can use the analog stick and hold the X button to slice through fruit. I'll give him my credits due. This is actually pretty hilarious to see on the PSP. I think it's finally time for some Half-Life. I know it doesn't look like it, but just trust me, bro. So after like 3 million years of loading, it's finally loaded. But I mean, I have a confession to make. I have not played Half-Life, so I can't tell for sure how accurate this is to the original. But generally, like, so far, this seems like a decent port. So would I recommend Half-Life on the PSP? I mean, if you like load times, then sure, I suppose. But I'd rather play this on, I don't know, a PC or something. But it's definitely cool if you want to check it out. Although the controls you will need to get used to, because you have to use the face buttons to move around and the analog stick as a camera. So the ultimate question remains: is the PSP Street still worth it in 2025? Is it still worth hacking? Still worth checking out? It depends on what you really want. If you want an emulation device, you know, an emulation beast, I don't know if this will exactly be it for you, because, well, some of the emulators like N64 are a little bit iffy on this device, and this goes for literally any other PSP. So I wouldn't recommend the PSP for that specifically. But if you want to try out some cool homebrew like the Minecraft and maybe even some Half-Life, it's definitely worth it for that. It's definitely worth checking out. And even aside all that stuff, you've got a massive library of PSP games here like Tekken Dark Resurrection, Daxter, and just so many others. And you even got the PS1 games that work perfectly on this device. So honestly, I would personally obviously get, you know, obviously like the PSP 2000, 3000, whatever. But I would say, depending on what you want, I would still use a PSP in 2025. So with that, I will see you guys in my next video. So, see ya.